and they could help design it for manufacturing and then hand it off to a factory overseas and make it. But I actually called up Product Design one day, which is a big design firm in New York, and the person I talked to on the phone was like, you know, this is going to cost $1 million to design this here. You could just go and do it yourself. And it kind of took her saying that for me to sort of get the confidence to feel like I could potentially just figure out how to do it myself. And I had talked to other entrepreneurs as well who were making products and who, after a few years of doing it, they were like, yeah, you can figure out how to do this yourself. It's not too complicated, and you don't need too much capital to get it going. So, so that was kind of where I was at. I couldn't find the right partner, and I decided that after I graduated, I would just start sort of seeking out those people. So I talked to a lot of people who could share their contacts with me overseas, and I ended up going out to China to find a manufacturer. I talked to a bunch of factories out there, and just sort of speaking with them in person, I found the one that I felt comfortable working with. And so we started designing it together. Of course, one of the issues was figuring out how to design it so that it could absorb the shock when it fell to the ground every day. And so one of the obstacles was actually just making sure that it could fall from the nightstand that was about 3 feet high, and letting it sort of drop to the ground and still continue on, because of course the goal was that it should get far enough away so that somebody who's waking up in the morning would actually have to get out of bed. And then I started to really think about the aesthetics. I mean, with this factory that I was working with overseas, they had pretty good engineers that could help with the internals and the shock absorbency and the electronics and the mechanics of it all. But I really had a vision for wanting to make this thing really look like a character. So we kind of worked together on the external part of things and looked at various shapes. And then worked with them on the insides, of course. And I couldn't choose a factory. There was two that I really liked. So I actually had two factories make a prototype. This was the prototype at one factory, and then this was the prototype at another factory. So this one was way cuter, so I went with this one. But you can see that one of the features sort of bringing this thing to life, making it feel like it was a fun product, a fun way to wake up in the morning. Wanted to give it some character, and so I arranged the LCD and the buttons in a way that would suggest a face. So that was sort of one of the design elements. And then just started testing it out in the home, seeing how, you can't see that very well, but that's, and then also putting it into some packaging designs, and so that's sort of a big part of the process as well, of sort of figuring out how you're going to package it and ship it, because it is going to be traveling all over the world. This initial prototype was the one below, and decided, after testing it out, that we needed to increase the size of the screen some. So we made another prototype, and this is really just with 3D printing and plastics. This is sort of before we started tooling the product. So got to a size and shape that we liked, and then started tooling it. And this is one of the first prototypes that actually came out from the factory. And did just a lot of more testing on the sort of feature where it would fall to the ground every day, and part of that was just adding material into the insides, which I'm sure a lot of you know a lot about mechanics here. And so at that point we just it was time to start selling it and marketing it. So at this time I was, because of the sort of viral nature of the product, was able to rile up a lot more press coverage, which, without that I don't know that I would have really been able to do this. It was sort of, in retrospect, it was probably millions and millions of dollars of press coverage that really all happened because it's a product that is so simple to explain. People like to talk about it. You know, they like to say, "Oh, I heard about this product that I think you could use," or they'll all often say to me, "I know somebody who needs it." And so, and then it started showing up in a bunch of different books as well. And then we started selling it into retail, and it's pretty much been selling strong for, this is the 6th year now. And you know, we sell it everywhere. The MoMA Design Store in New York is sort of been one of our customers from the beginning. They're a small retailer, but we've been in most of the bigger retailers as well, like Best Buy and Amazon, of course, and all of that. And then, you know, we do a lot of trade shows to sell the product really all over the place. And as you can see, like, the viral nature of the product continues. People will like post pictures of themselves with the product, post them on post videos on YouTube, and then we also sell pretty much in like 45 different countries now, all over the world. So after sort of Clocky happened, we realized, of course, you get a lot of feedback from customers, and we realized we wanted to do another version, one that would be a little bit more customizable. So we came up with this sort of smaller design where you could actually outfit the product with skins to change the color, and you can also record your voice onto it. You record different sounds and put MP3s into it. So this is sort of the next version of Clocky that actually rolls around without wheels. So it's a bit of a different engineering design, and it's about 3 inches in diameter, so it's really small. So it's sort of the same challenges of Clocky, getting it to roll off of your nightstand every day, but here, of course, we have to make everything very compact as well. And of course, so after this, actually this is sort of the next product that we're coming out with, which sort of, I think, kind of completes the family of rolling alarm clocks, in that we're creating these new characters to really go into more of the mainstream market. Each of these will be $20. And the idea is that the head pops out of them, and then and then when you find the head, you place it back into the base, and then it stops beeping at you. So, and we're doing different licensed versions. Like, this isn't a version for Angry Birds that we're doing. So yeah, I mean, I touched a little bit on sort of why I think that this became such a sort of big successful thing, why it was so easy to get that viral attention. And I think it's really because it's something that had such a huge market. I mean, when I tell people about the product, they'll either be like, you know, this is something that I need, I can never get out of bed on time, or they'll say that they know somebody who needs one. I think it also, because of that, you know, because it sort of makes you remember, you know, somebody in your life that you think could need one, or it reminds you of this time in the morning that's so hard and frustrating. Getting up is such a relatable product that it has, or a relatable concept, that it has this sort of emotional component to it. So people laugh right away. They just sort of get it. And you know, another thing, and this is something that I only really work on products that have never really been done before. And at the time, it was a situation where all alarm clocks out there were pretty boring. They were all black. They were plugged in. They hadn't evolved at all in so many years. And for some reason, it was a segment of the market where nobody thought to really wasn't thinking to innovate it. Of course, that situation is changing a lot now with phones and apps and things. But so I think those were sort of the key factors on why it had so much attention, and why we've at this point been able to sell around 600,000 products, and that's mainly been with myself and a few other employees. And the way the business is set up, it's a lot of just outsourcing to contractors as we need them. We have a fulfillment center, and we have our factory overseas. So it's a lot of sort of picking out the best people to work with, best companies to work with to make this happen, but focusing on what our company is good at, which is really just trying to build new products and innovate on ideas that haven't really been done before. But it's probably, if you guys have questions, that might be the way to go.
It's a great speech, and thank you for being here, and it's fantastic. Now, the question is in terms of timeline for prototype in China and the cost. Is it confidential, or can you say something how long it took?
Sure. I mean, the first Clocky, it took about a year and a half to get it to market, and part of that was just a learning curve for me. One of the challenges with working overseas, with people that aren't right there, is just that if you're not right there, you kind of have to keep pushing for it to happen. And I actually ended up right before the product was supposed to come out. I ended up going to Hong Kong, and I stayed there for what was supposed to be 3 weeks. It actually turned into about 4 months. So I just lived there and went to the factory every day and made sure that things were progressing and that all of the design elements, the vision that I had was happening. So it was definitely a lot of work on that end. I think once you have your partners figured out, and once you know who you're working with that you can trust, things can go a lot faster. Although typically I would say a year is sort of the minimum to get a product out from design to manufacture.
And the funding from personal sources, family? Or?
Yeah, funding. So it actually only cost me about $80,000 to get it going, which
not cheaper than $1 million they're talking.
Yeah, which is actually relatively really cheap for a company to start out. And we were really lucky because all the press attention I had, and I had a mailing list at that time. So right when I came out with the product, I was able to sell through 10,000 units really quickly. And after that, I was basically cash flow positive ever since. Yeah, I mean, 80,000. I was I just got it from family, and then in retrospect, I could have gone after investors. I think there are there are pros and cons to both approaches. The way I did it, I really had to keep everything really low budget, figure out how to do everything really cheaply, and there's a lot of great lessons in that. But of course, if I had gone with investors, I could have done things in a bigger way, perhaps hired more people. But then again, there would have been challenges with that way of doing things, and investors are always on your back and stuff like that. So it's sort of like you kind of have to weigh your options and decide what's best for you at the time. But yeah, there are those kind of different approaches. I know a lot of entrepreneurs will go out and get $10 million, but then they have this sort of pressure to prove to the venture capitalists that it's going to be a $100 million business in 10 years or something. So you just kind of have to figure that out. What's best for your business? I mean, in my case, I had one product. I had one product idea. It wasn't like a whole brand. It wasn't a whole company yet. So I think I did it the right way. But yeah, there are definitely options if you don't have other personal investment money. You can definitely go after investment money. There's a lot of money out there for good ideas. Yeah.
Well, I still have trouble understanding how exactly to get started because, well, I actually have invented several board games, and my friends and family have played it, and they've really liked it, and they all say that I should somehow get it patented and somehow get it out there. But I really don't know how I would even get started.
Yeah, there are different parts of this, of course. Like getting a patent, if it's something that is patentable, which you would have to sort of look into. Before, if you want to really protect your idea, you can just file a provisional patent, which is a couple $100, and that buys you some time to really prove that the idea is worth it, and then you can patent it. But as far as just putting out a product in general. So I don't know specifically about board games, but you know, you can. I guess I would suggest to start talking to all of the entrepreneurs that you can reach out to. I mean, I randomly contact people all the time asking for advice about how to do it. So I guess it's sort of like you have to decide how much money you have to spend or where you're getting the money from, and then from there kind of figure out how who you would work with on this product, so who would manufacture it. So for me, you know, I went directly to the factory and I worked directly with them with whatever low budget that I had to work with at the time. But it's really just taking that first step, going to the factory and going to designers if you're not a designer yourself, and sort of working together with those people. I mean, from there, it's sort of like you don't have to have the whole process figured out. You just kind of take it step by step, and you figure it out as you go. But that would be what I would think the first step would be. Yeah.
When you went over to China, you were talking with manufacturers and stuff. Did you have any idea of like what like costs you should be looking at? Because like being new to the industry and stuff like that, did you have somebody who was mentoring you to tell you like this is what you should be looking at for costs, or did you just compare and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was more comparison because, you know, nobody could really tell me what it was going to cost to create this product because nobody had created it yet. I think however, there is sort of, you know, if you're going to retail, it is helpful to talk to the buyers at stores and other people who have maybe sold similar products or products that are non-competing, but you know, within that category that you can sort of figure out what the retail price would be, and then you can work backwards. And so you can divide that retail price by, generally you want to have like, you could divide it by 4 or 5 to get sort of that idea of what it should be in your cost of goods. So let's say it costs $10 for the goods, then you multiply it by 4 or 5 to figure out your retail price. Because you have to keep in mind that retailers take half of your margins.